hopefully you're starting to talk to stakeholders. This video is going to bring out some key things to maybe think about. While we extended this competition last time it was 1 week. We give you 2 weeks. I know it still feels rushed, but there's plenty of time to at least talk to a few more people and to put out your MVPs. But let's watch this video real quick because it has some really good concepts I think are applicable for this group. Just like a couple minutes.
Welcome to the Dream It Dose. In the next 5 minutes, we'll talk about talking to customers, why they tend not to tell the truth to startups, and the one thing you need to say to make sure you don't get a false positive. Let's dive in. So as many know, it's absolutely critical that as early as possible, you start speaking with customers. Even before you have a product, even before you have an MVP, you can even test your positioning. As Steve Blank likes to say, get out of the building. Now, when you get out of the building, two big questions are, who should you be meeting with, and what should you be asking them? First, let's talk about who you should be meeting with. I want you to think about there's three big classes of people to meet with. The person who benefits, the person who approves, and the person who pays. Those in many organizations can be three different people. You should actually be talking to all three. Let's say you were selling a health tech solution to a hospital. The physician might be the person who benefits from the solution, but it's not the person who necessarily pays. You need to meet with both of them. A really simplified example of that would think about when a grandmother is holding her toddler and the toddler has a nice ice cream cone in their hand and they're really enjoying that. The person who benefits, the toddler, is different than the person who approves and pays. In this case, the grandmother. Two different people. You'd need to actually de-risk and ask both of them questions about the solution and idea you've come up with. By the way, I know I'm going quickly. Please make sure to...
Okay. So the reason why I want to start with that is because, you know, for the home building industry, depending on who your stakeholder is, they might have more of a corporate type job, and maybe they're not on the ground actually doing that stuff, and maybe they haven't done it for a couple of years and have lost track on what's actually happening, or the reverse. Maybe you're dealing with someone that's actually on the ground, you know, hitting the actual boards, but maybe there's somebody that would need to approve finances or approve a deal. And so ideally you're talking to multiple stakeholders. So essentially the easiest question to ask is, okay, if my idea was actually going to be implemented, how many people does it touch? Meaning like how many organizations or specific job titles would be involved either at the beginning or throughout the process to make this work. And so you could ask questions like, okay, if eventually someone bought this product, who actually buys it? Do you have the say, or do we have to go through someone else? Oh, you'd have to go through someone else. Do you mind if we, you know, could you do an introduction just so we'd understand like what it would take? Because we need to know like what it actually would take to get this product to market, because there's a lot of loopholes. So the reason why I give that example is I have a really good student in one of my other classes, and he was working on, he is working on medical equipment for the military, and he's former military, and so he really knows the space, and he's really come up with some awesome military tech. But here's the deal: that military tech, all the military doctors, they love it. But I was like, after watching this video, I was like, wait, is the military doctor going to buy it or somebody else? Somebody else is going to buy it. Okay, go talk to that person. And what he realized is the person who bought it was like, no, actually, you have to be in business for X amount of years, and you have to have this type of thing, and you have to have a license, da-da-da-da-da. All it meant is like he had a hard dose of reality of what it actually took to sell into the military. But that's a good thing, because he was literally building his business on essentially a false dream. Now he has the reality of it. It doesn't mean his business dies. It just means he needs to start somewhere else. And that's kind of the transition that I want to talk about today, is really during this pitch or throughout this competition, you know, you're talking about like the home building industry, but really my goal for you is not to sell to the entire industry. You're looking, while your product might be applicable, you're trying to find like the client who absolutely needs you now or could really benefit from you. So in the startup world, this is called the beachhead concept. So just to kind of, let me present this real quick. Okay, so in Normandy, so here's the picture of Normandy, and this is where they attacked, right? Pretty big beachhead, like it was actually larger than I thought it was gonna be, and there were several different attacks. So it looks like Normandy was actually pretty large. But if you zoom out, now I can see actually Normandy is pretty relatively small to the French coastline. They just picked a piece of it. And then if you zoom out even more, like I realize, wow, that's the whole coast of Europe, and they picked that little X as a starting point. So what I can tell you is this: if you're talking about the statistics of somebody actually embracing you and using you, the vaguer you are, the more people and industry, like the more customer segments you're trying to solve day one, the less likely you are to launch and actually have success. And the reason why is because you become so big and so vague that you're not actually being specific enough to say, hey, I really know you and I'm solving that problem. And so that can be broken up into several things. It could be the size of the company, it could be the money that they bring in, or the people. It could be the type of lots they build. It could be segmented by the materials they use. Like there's a lot of things that you can, what we call sub-segmenting. And so the way this looks like in a pitch, here, let me switch. I thought I had this up. The way this looks like in a pitch is, in a normal pitch, you'd say, okay, here's the entire market size, like $1.8 billion is spent on XYZ, and we think we can go after this amount. But even this is too big, so this is my specific market. And so really where this dials in is applicable to your guys is when you're pitching and you tell me about the MVP, right? Because we're going to launch it, we're going to have an MVP. I want to know, like, based on your MVP results, based on what happens, like, who do you think needs your product the most now? And if you just tell me like all builders need it and you don't have like some type of sub-segment, to me, you're a little vague and you're just risking the chance of not winning the competition because you were too vague and not specific enough, but also the chance to like actually launch and be successful about that. Last thing, I just wanted to give a sneak peek. I'll articulate a little bit more on this moving forward on other lessons, but let me share real quick, 1 second. Okay, I just want to give you a sense of what the slides should start looking like. You should have really clean, easy slides. This is not like sometimes the school presentations where we're trying to cram in as many words as possible. Like this is like a 7-word count. That's probably good. Other times you can do bullet points, but you can see like this is me explaining the problem. So if I had a marketplace, like I've got consumers and businesses, this is just an example of like, here's my problem with businesses, here's my problem with consumers, or icons are really good. This is what I'm expecting, like either bigger pictures like this with little words or something like this with icons. The reason why I'm emphasizing that is because, especially when you're pitching over Zoom, if you have a deck where it's just words, I'm just reading and I'm not even going to listen to what you say. It should just be a background support of you kind of owning the room, and I can kind of glance to make sure I'm on the right page. So we'll go over that tomorrow, more like slide by slide of examples of here's what good looking slides are.